Welcome to Healers Talk Healing, the podcast where we gather to explore the art and science of holistic healing, uncovering the secrets to a happier, healthier you. I'm your host, Nina Ganguli, and together we will delve into the intriguing world of holistic healing, delving into the mind-body connection, ancient wisdom, and natural remedies. Get ready for enlightening stories, thought-provoking expert interviews, and practical tips that will empower you to unlock your true potential and embrace a vibrant, balanced life. Whether you're an experienced wellness enthusiast or simply curious about the power of healing, join us on this exhilarating journey as we share the wisdom and insights that can truly transform your life. It's time to embark on a voyage towards a happier, healthier you. So, without further ado, let's dive into the captivating world of Healers Talk Healing. Join us on this episode as I, Nina Ganguli, make a rare switch from host to guest, with my daughter Sarika guiding the conversation. We unpack the profound concept of healing as the complete acceptance of oneself and one's surroundings, sharing my personal journey of forgiveness, acceptance, and self-discovery. Listen as we navigate the moment-by-moment challenges of staying true to my playful, authentic self in an ever-changing world. Ever wonder why certain conflicts trigger such profound reactions? Discover the story behind a clash with my father and the subsequent self-reflection that followed. Through this narrative, we explore the nature of my critical inner voice, whom I've named Elvira, and how unmet expectations can fuel our defensiveness. This episode uncovers the importance of taking responsibility for our emotions and managing the inner narratives that impact our relationships. Manipulation, self-awareness, and personal growth might seem like separate topics, but they are all interconnected in the journey of healing. We tackle the nuanced role of manipulation not as a negative trait, but as a tool that, when used wisely, can lead to positive outcomes. From the impact of upbringing on behavior to the continuous process of self-improvement, we discuss the importance of self-expression through Reiki and chakras. Finally, we reflect on the honor and responsibility of being a healer, emphasizing that genuine transformation comes from accepting our flaws and turning pain into personal and communal growth.
We are good.
You were good.
Okay. Well, hello. Welcome to our episode of Healers Talk Healing with Nina Ganguli.
This is a little different, right?
Yeah, it's definitely.
I'm the one who is hosting, but today we're doing something a little different where Sarika is part of the team on Healers Talk Healing and part of Miracles Directory team or Miracles. And so she's going to be asking me some questions today, which is kind of exciting. And so the floor is yours, my dear.
All right. Well, Nina happens to be my mother. So this will be very fun, very exciting, I'm sure. Now let's get right into it. And I'm going to ask you, what is your definition of healing?
You would think that I would have something right at the top of my head because I asked this of all of our guests. And really, I think, I was thinking about this the other day because I knew we were going to be recording this. And I was thinking about, well, what would be my answer? And the first thing that came to me was like complete acceptance of self and everything that surrounds self. When you can accept what is, what isn't, who is, who isn't, I don't think anything can infiltrate then your peace of mind, which is something that's so important to me. Peace of mind and full self-expression. These are things that I'm picking up along the way as I am also still on a healing journey. So I really do believe that it is all about accepting. It's kind of like Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, which is being able to observe what's going on without any sort of reaction.
Yeah.
And that is not easy.
No, it is not.
It's easy for me to say it's about acceptance. And I say that all the time, like even on my other podcast, which is, from victim to victory and all about forgiveness. And forgiveness is true forgiveness, I believe, is acceptance, like accepting everything the way it is. And it's easy to say. It's just one word, acceptance. It's so easy.
It's not so easy in practice, that's for sure. Well, then I'd like to know, what does your forgiveness and acceptance journey look like?
What does mine look like? It's an everyday phenomenon. There's every day I am working on accepting, a tone, a joke. As I'm getting older, I am actually discovering how sensitive I am. Now, I'm also perimenopausal. Let me just put that out there. So many of us are already become more sensitive and highly irritable, but I have noticed in my observation of self that I'm very sensitive. Even like little things, tiny little things impact me. So then it's like, okay, well, there's a level of moment by moment, I have to accept things the way they are without judging self, without judging others. It's a whole lot of head work, actually, is what's going on right now in my head. And certain things I'm good with now. Certain things I'm like, oh, okay, this is just the way it is. However, if I were to go back, I know you asked me a loaded question, so I'm going to give you a loaded answer. I'm constantly looking at, where are my thoughts coming from? Where did they grow from? Where was the seed implanted that I think the way I do? And I discovered, or maybe rediscovered for myself, I grew up in a very critical environment. So I am highly critical. And I also did a lot of development in looking for what's not working so that I can insert something that would make it work so it would be better. So imagine that that's my brain all the time. So it is a critical thinking. Not only do I critically think from like in a broader perspective, but I'm critical. I'm critical of others. I'm critical of self. And so the journey now, I think, is accepting the darker parts of me that I haven't really gone and looked at. I was looking at the darker parts of others and how those darker parts impacted me. And now my forgiveness and acceptance journey is about forgiving myself for how I turned out to be. And at this age, I'm 50 plus. It's an interesting journey. It's an interesting journey. And I know sometimes you'll ask me, Mom, where are you right now? Like what's going on? You look
a lot of the time.
Even like sometimes Dad will say, you look upset. You look like you're not having a good time, and that's not the truth. The truth is the introspection. I am having a good time, but the introspection is, why am I having that thought? And the thought maybe is irritating me. Like I'm getting irritated at my irritation.
Yep, I can understand that.
Because that is not who I see myself authentically to be.
Okay.
Authentically, I am. Do you remember one day you told me the other day, you said, there's something that changes in my eyes when I'm completely authentic.
Yeah, and yourself and happy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is who I am. And maybe for the listeners, you're not going to understand that because you don't see me every day, but really, I'm much more childlike, more playful, giddy. So it's like who I am with a glass of wine. And it's sad to say that that's when it mostly comes out, or I'm on vacation without any kind of, substance or any, like no alcohol or anything like that. But that's the journey, finding those moments minute by minute, day by day. And I'm challenged because situations are changing all the time, and recognizing my thought patterns and recognizing, well, this thought pattern doesn't work. What thought pattern do you want to place in here? But like, that's constantly thinking. So I'm constantly thinking, I guess. I mean, aren't we all?
Yes, it's like a constant battle with yourself, pretty much
Mhm.
all the time, 24/7. Yeah, I experience that every day as well. So I can completely understand that. It's always like, or you question your thoughts. Why are you thinking like that?
Mhm.
And that leads to more thoughts. And now you're more annoyed than you were, 10 seconds ago.
Well, I think that one of the biggest challenges for me lately has been, well, with experience, you know mostly how a situation is going to turn out. So you prepare yourself. Okay, this is the way the situation is going to be. This is how things are going to go. Not 100%, but there's a preparation so that your mindset is where it needs to be. And I have the talk with myself. I gear myself up, and it does end up being exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I'm still irritated.
Yep.
And I'm still critical of the situations. And I find that irritating at the level of self. So when I'm talking about healing, and maybe I'm repeating myself, it really truly is like healing those patterns right now that are not giving me peace of mind and not allowing my full self-expression to show up.
So how do you go about interrupting those thoughts then? And trying to rework or rewire those thoughts or how your brain
Mm,
regularly thinks that
it's
leads to the critical thinking or the lack of acceptance?
I think it's really about observation. Like the true observation of self in the moment. The other day, Dad and I had a disagreement, and he was really working hard at trying to communicate, and I was watching myself not allowing him to do so. I was like, I don't want to communicate. I don't want to hear what you're saying. I don't want to work it out. My initial feeling was run. That's usually my initial feeling for when I'm in a situation where I'm not comfortable. Fight or flight. I'm like, I'm out. And if I don't get to go out, then I fight. So I watched. So he left. He had to, leave. We were actually at an appointment, and he had to leave and go get something done. He had to go to the appointment, and I sat there and I thought, okay, so what's going on where I am unwilling? This is the observation. What is going on right now that I'm unwilling to be the person I said I want to be? I want to be communicative. I want to understand. I want to, hear, listen, be open, and I'm not doing that right now. And what happened in that moment is I realized I wanted something to go a certain way, or I wanted to communicate something, and it didn't come out as loving or kind. It came out harshly, which I didn't even realize, because that's the critical part of me, the defensive part of me. And when he came back from his appointment, I was able to say, my reaction came from this need to be a certain way. And it came out like it wasn't critical of you, but it was critical of self. And this is what, a lot of people, I think, experience is when I'm not sure how to say this, but I'm just going to say it. So, like,
Just say it.
yeah, like when you want something to happen or you want to take care of someone and you feel like you're not doing a good job, then your response to the situation or the person is defensive. There's no like, okay, well, how can we resolve this and come together? So this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at being able to listen for the dark parts of myself and be like, not be like, oh my God, like I've done something to hurt someone. So now I got to be defensive. Now I've got to be like this. And like all of this stuff comes up. And that's what actually happened in the moment. He got triggered about something I said. Then I got triggered by what he got triggered by. And then I was like, well, why am I triggered by that? This is so crazy. This is like insane. I'm telling him he's crazy, but really maybe I'm crazy. And this is what goes on in my head. That's how I work it out. I have to work it out that way. Or I go to my tribe. I have a tribe of true women who will support me and be like, I get you're angry. I understand you're angry, but where is your responsibility in this? And I have a hard time when somebody says that, where's your responsibility in this? Because immediately I don't think about responsibility as power. I think of it as, oh man, I did something wrong.
Yep. Yep. I think a lot of people feel like that too.
Yeah, it is. Responsible really means your ability to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way I was brought up, responsible means I'm at fault for something. And it takes something. Yes, I've been on a healing journey for 17 years, and I think I'm much better than I was 17 years ago. I had no clue how I reacted to things. I had no idea, who was talking here. Was this, the enlightened Nina or the angry Nina or the 13-year-old or the 20, like who is showing up, uh, and I think we all struggle with who we are in those moments, what sort of incident or trauma has caused us to react the way that we react. And when we can grab hold of it and see it, like you can't unsee something once you've seen it, right?
Yep. That
And,
is true.
and then once when you didn't know, maybe you can get
Mm-hmm.
get out of jail free card because you
Yep.
didn't know. But
Mm-hmm.
once you know, there's no more getting out of jail free.
Yep.
That is when your ability to respond makes the hugest difference.
You said something really interesting about your 13-year-old self, your angry self, your enlightened self. You have a name for a voice that is in your head that I would love, I think would be really interesting to talk about because, we did a lot of work about our inner voices or not so nice inner voices, especially at
Mm,
one of your events, which I
yeah.
think a lot of people could benefit from.
Yeah. So I call her Elvira, and she is a nasty woman, man. She's nasty, nasty, nasty. She used to scream at me before. She
Hmm.
used to scream, and it would be a loud scream, but she's gotten very good at manipulating the situation. She doesn't scream anymore.
Hmm.
She whispers.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
and I'm just actually realizing this as we're speaking. It's the little whisper. It's the little condescending remark, and maybe not about myself. Maybe it's about somebody else because ego is being dented about something. Maybe it's a feeling in the physical being that
Okay.
happens. But yeah, Elvira's not as loud as she used to be. She's not as nasty overtly as she used to be. Like literally, she used to be like, get off the effing couch. Like you need to do something. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you just sitting here? Now it's like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to get off the couch if you don't want to.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, no, but I got stuff to do. Oh no, you can have a pass. The little like it's she's smart.
She sounds manipulative.
She's very manipulative. And what I discover, she's a part of me. So what
Hmm.
does that say about who I am? And I realized I am manipulative. When I want to get something, it's manipulation. Okay, so
Hmm.
understand the definition of manipulation is changing something
Yeah.
so that you can make it work, right?
Yep. Hmm.
So it's not always a bad thing, just like responsibility is not always a bad thing. Will I use manipulation to get something out of some? Yeah, we all do. Like, who doesn't?
Everybody does. When they want their way for something, they will
Right?
manipulate.
Like successful people will manipulate situations so that the outcome turns out the best for everybody involved.
Mm.
That's what you have to do, right? Like, we just spent 20 minutes trying to manipulate the sound so the
Yep.
sound was
So
good,
it works properly. Yep. That
you
we
know?
did.
So that's called manipulation. But I realized that when I don't get my own way, I start thinking, what should I say? It's automatic. What should I say? How should I say it? What do I need to do to get what I want? And when I don't get what I want, oh boy, I am not nice. That's the darker part of me, the part that I'm like, okay, where is this coming from? And it's always, unfortunately, it always goes back to our upbringing, those
Yep.
critical moments where now I'm not 5 years old, or I'm not 6 years old, or I'm not 13 years old, and my voice starts to say what I start to say to myself is, you've got to parent yourself. You're 55 years old almost. You need to come and parent yourself. It's time that you don't use the excuse of whatever excuse I use. It's to be a grown-up. I see myself do it all the time. Like, oh, I just want to be a kid right now. I don't want to take this responsibility. I don't want to do this. Like, the listeners don't know, you're like my accountability person, right? So when you ask me things that I have not done, I'm not always nice in my response. Well, most of the time I'm not nice.
She's never
Actually,
nice.
not all, like most of the time.
Responses 99% of the time, not nice.
No, and I try and use the trump card. I'm mom.
Yep.
So don't talk to me that way, or don't ask me a question like that. Yeah, that's my shadow self, because I don't want to be held accountable, or I feel bad, or I feel guilty, or I'm like, well, who's losing out at the end, really?
You are.
Yeah, the healing journey. It is definitely, it is a journey. There's layers and layers and layers. I do know when I look back how far I've come, but I still know there's a long way to go, to get to monk status.
Oh my goodness. That's
I don't want to be a monk, but what I'm
other
trying to
kind of
say,
status.
like not getting irked by somebody who cut me off, and not getting irked by a tone, which is, that's a big one for me. Tone is a big one where I have not come near mastering yet.
I feel like tone is hard because you can always tell what the tone means. It's not like you can hide what a tone means when someone's speaking to you that way. So I can understand why it'd be so. Ugh. I can already feel getting irritated by by someone's tone.
And it's so funny because we know what tones irritate other people too. I know what tone irritates. I know what tone irritates.
Yeah.
We know there's a lot of things we know. And hey, you know what? We're not perfect. We're not perfect. And, healing is not a perfect journey. And I know, like, there are some people who would say, well, you've been doing this for 17 years. You should be over XYZ. Some things, like, I want to share that some things are at cellular levels. Like, there's a ton of research now that shows the impact of trauma or traumatic events on people's physiology. Think about it. Think about when you get angry, before you react, there's some sort of physical sensation that happens. When I feel guilty, there's a certain sort of thing that happens. And because I'm a Reiki master, I know what's my throat chakra and my heart chakra right there are like
they tense up.
They actually tense up.
Wow.
It used to be in my stomach. It doesn't sit in my stomach anymore. It sits like up here and here, because I'm not being authentically self-expressed, because it's coming through.
Okay, I see.
Anger, right?
Yeah, I see. So, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, because your throat chakra is all about self-expression. And, well, your heart chakra is about love. And when I'm not in alignment with all of those, there's a definite impact.
Well, now that we brought up Reiki and chakras, I think it's time to tell our listeners of what you do. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm multifaceted. And it's funny,
true.
I've been working at trying to figure out how to, like, bring everything together. And I just realized they don't all have to work together. They're not all married. Who am I? Well, yes, I am a Reiki master, and I do work with clients to provide a space that they can heal themselves, or have a space where they can just be who they need to be. I'm also a certified life coach, so I do that as well. It's all like those things are kind of all married into one. And the other thing I do, maybe most people don't know what my actual role is, circles, which is I don't even actually know my actual full title, but it's, I believe I'm the director of marketing and branding. And so, how all of those all work together for me is allowing people wherever they are, whether it's in their business, in their lives, to be fully self-expressed. So marketing allows the expression of a business to come to life. Healing allows the expression of self to be exposed and come to life. Because we're born authentic. We come out and we know exactly what we want. We're not afraid to say it. I'm hungry. I'm dirty. I'm sleepy. My belly hurts. There's no problem in that self-expression. But as we grow, we get into an environment where others are not fully self-expressed or healed themselves. And so you're in an environment where maybe your full self-expression is triggering somebody else's inability to be fully expressed or how they want to see the world.
Yep, I have experienced that.
So let's just say it. Us parents, we mess up our children. My parents messed me up. I'm sure we've done things to mess you up. And if you pass that on, or you have children, or you're around children, you may do the same thing as someone who, our immediate reactions are for survival. So if we feel that we're being threatened in any way, we're going to do whatever it takes to survive, make up stories in our head, do whatever it is. So anyways, I digress in the question that you asked me, which is, what do I do? What I do at all levels is allow people's full self-expression, whether it's through marketing, branding, coaching, healing. That is what I do. And, I just came up with sort of a tagline, which is harmony and hustle, positively empowering growth.
Yep.
Join the Miracles Directory, where healers connect and wellness begins. Join a community of trusted holistic professionals, or find your path to healing and peace. Visit themiraclesdirectory.com. Start your journey today.
It's a lot of work what you do. It takes something to allow people to be fully expressed. I mean, speaking from not like familial experience with not being allowed to be self-expressed, because I've barely felt like that, really. Because if you don't know my mother, she has, and my dad have always told me, do whatever I want to do as long as I'm happy. And so that is what I take away a lot from all the other, crap that has happened. That is one really positive takeaway, because a lot of people in my life who are my age do not have that experience of their parents allowing themselves to be fully self-expressed. And that was challenging, especially in high school, because I was fully self-expressed, but nobody around me was. So it puts a lot of dents in people, feel like attacked or less than. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything but doing what my parents taught me to do. So it was kind of very interesting to navigate that world at that point. But now that I'm, not 16, it's 8 years later, I can appreciate the amount of teachings that you have given me. And it's interesting how it came full circle for what you do with your business is exactly how you kind of raised my brother and I to be fully self-expressed.
You don't always like it when you're fully self-expressed, but that's okay.
Hey.
I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
Because we never really get into this in our conversations about what has it been like for you as the child of someone who is on that healing journey, who has had such, I don't want to make it dramatic, but had a traumatic upbringing.
Yeah.
And then, experiencing someone who is dealing with all of the demons that come along with the healing journey.
This is a very interesting question, because I've never actually thought about it. It kind of just happened, right? Because I lived life while you were also on your healing journey. I kind of lived it side by side with you. So I don't remember a lot from when I was younger, I'll be honest. My memories of pre-middle school are next to none. So if we're going way back to when I first started, when Dalu or your father had passed away, I could not tell you.
You were 6 years old.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say it's been a funny journey. I'm gonna say funny because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what she's doing. I don't like I don't get it. It doesn't seem like it's doing anything. And then, a year later, I'm like, oh, well, okay, she did it a year ago. I thought it was dumb, but now I can see the impact of that a year later.
Mm.
It kind of reminds me, this is gonna be really funny because I have a science brain. So I'm gonna go a little bit over there. There's a lag for a lot of natural events, a lag across the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see the lag until sometimes a year, even 5 years later. So you could have done something to me that I thought was dumb 5 years ago, because I was, however old I was, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, this doesn't make any sense to me. Why would she be doing that? How can that help you heal? How is that possible? How can reliving your trauma help you heal? That was like the number one thing for me. Why would you want to live through that again and then try and heal for, like, that blew my mind. Okay.
Mm.
And now at 23, I'll be 24 soon. I'm like, oh, okay, now I understand. Because if you just shove it to the side, you haven't healed from it at all. It has gone nowhere but down into your, unconscious, subconscious mind. And it's yelling at you all the time, constantly. So it is, I would say, being the child is watching you respectably take over your life and take control of your life in a way that you never had before. Which is very different than if I were, do the journey myself, because I wouldn't see it that way.
Mm.
And it's kind of sometimes like a mirror, like some things I've experienced, you've also already experienced. So I can be like, okay, well, if my mom can heal from that, you know, 40 years after it happened, I'm sure I can heal from that 6 months after it happened. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I would say it's definitely been challenging at some points. Like there's some stuff I'm sure or all of us as a cohesive family unit have thought were insane. But I can see, for lack of better term, the method to your madness,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because
So I
yeah,
can't imagine what it was, what it's been like without feeling at some points I did feel bad because it didn't make sense. It didn't even make sense to me, to be honest with you. Some of the things that I put myself through, because like nobody forces anyone to do
yeah,
anything, literally. Some of the things I put myself through, like I got a learning out of that.
yeah,
Like,
of
why did I say
course.
yes to something that would do XYZ
Hmm.
at the end of the day, And, I can't imagine what it's like to watch. Well, I can't imagine. What am I talking about? I
You
can
can,
imagine it.
know.
It is, I think, one of the most, as a mother, watching the growth and development as a child for your child and not to stick your nose in it, not to say something, allow the process,
Hmm.
which my tribe multiple times have said, step back, allow the process to happen. You can only be an observer at this point, is not one of the most, I would say, is the most challenging thing. We had this conversation the other day where you were like,
Yeah.
Mom, why are you so mad about this? Like, it doesn't even impact you. But the truth is, it does. When you are, when somebody came out of your body, like literally out of your body, or even if they didn't come out of your body, and you have that love for them, to
Mhm.
watch someone be hurt and not want to punch someone in the face is the biggest challenge of life.
I think, well, I will never understand that, nor do I want to understand that. I have no interest. I spend all day with kids anyways. But I think from, I'm gonna say, from the child's perspective, to have someone who is still harboring anger, I'm not gonna say hate, because I don't know if that's the correct term, towards something that happened to their kid, and to still harbor that, the kid can feel it. And so it's hard for us to then let that go because somebody else around us all the time can still feel it. It's like, I'm going to give an example. When it is my time of the month, my mother can already tell that I'm going to be starting my period at some point. And she knows in her whole being that it is going to happen. And I'm like, oh, I'm not even close. Not possible. But lo and behold, 2, 3, 4 days later, Mother Nature decides to show up. And so we are attached, number one, cellularly, we are genetically. I would say my mom and I have a fantastic relationship. So even closer than I would say someone else is to their child, because it's an open door policy with my mom always. So I can talk about whatever, do whatever, say whatever I need to say can happen. But it is hard from the kid's perspective to have someone who's still angry about something that actually did not happen to them, and then that person trying to get over it, but someone else is still angry about it.
That's interesting. I think that's a fair statement to say about the impact, because then it's like it becomes some sort of constant conversation in the background,
Exactly.
And I think it also comes from that, well, the parent or
Yeah.
not having acceptance or forgiveness for the pain that was caused to their child.
Of course.
And I think if we can get to that place, because there are some people who just, they're not interested in accepting or forgiving.
Yeah. Like,
there are people who are they're just not interested. There's a sense of whatever it is, I was in that place for a little bit, having this, like, being upset with someone and then be like, well, I'm not interested in accepting whatever is happening right now. I'm just not interested. I want to sit in my anger. I want to sit in my bitterness. But what I didn't realize in that moment until it was brought to my attention that me sitting in the bitterness, me sitting in the anger was actually impacting everyone around me because I was horrible to live with. Right. And then, so I don't want it to impact other people, but then we sway, like I said, this whole healing journey is like this back and forth pendulum of, well, okay, I want to be in my feelings right now, but my feelings are impacting people. And I am a people pleaser. That is my natural way and state of being. It is the way I was brought up. It is who I am. It is something I have to deal with all the time so that it doesn't impact me, because people pleasing is something about, it comes down to control. It comes down to self-esteem. It comes down to so many different things. But from my perspective, it comes down to, so if the people pleasing is like, so that I don't feel like this, everyone has to feel like I have to make sure everything is okay so that it's not impacting my state of mind. But anyways, what I was getting at is back to it's like it's taking us right back to the beginning of the question.
I was just gonna say that.
Really mean to me. And it is about acceptance. It will always, for me, be about acceptance. And it's easy to say, but it's challenging to do, because I say, okay, I've accepted it. But then that person might come into my visual and I'm like, I'm so mad. I haven't accepted anything. What's that all about? And what I'm learning is, when I'm still mad, it's because I haven't communicated authentically with that person or the situation. I haven't said, you know what, I'm still mad about this. Yeah, I know it was 3 years ago, but I'm still angry.
I'm still mad about it.
And it's still impacting me. I obviously haven't gotten over it. But I've also learned that the minute I communicate, as challenging as it is, the minute I communicate my distress, or however you want to put it, once I've sort of communicated it and I've put it on the table, I think my brain says, well, at least you got to say what you wanted to say. And you're not left with anything. Now, whatever the person says back to you, that's a whole nother story. You have to accept also what's coming at you when you're in these conversations, that they're not going to show up the way you want them to. It's not a bowl of cherries. Listen, full self-expression makes other people uncomfortable, like what you said.
Yep. Really
You are
uncomfortable.
fully self-expressed, you will be judged because it does make other people feel uncomfortable because they also want to be fully self-expressed. But then they've got all their stuff going on. Have you ever been, I asked the audience, I'd love to hear, have you ever been in a situation where you saw someone just be however they want it to be, and your thoughts are like, that person crazy. You're like, what is going on with that person? They should just, shut their mouth or go sit down. And why are they wearing that? Or whatever the heck it might be, whatever their level of authentic full self-expression is. It does make people feel uncomfortable because most of us don't walk around being fully self-expressed. And that is why it's so important to me that people have access to that, however it is for them. That's the most important. And that's why I do the work I do.
I agree. It is very important. And it is very stressful for people to be fully self-expressed, I find too. Especially in 2024, where everything you do is everywhere. How you act. You make one mistake, it is with you and stuck with you for the rest of your life.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I had a tumultuous time in high school, and I can't imagine having cameras, having phones, having whatever, instantaneous access to, people's mistakes.
Forever and all of
Forever.
eternity.
Yeah.
It cannot, your history can no longer be erased. You don't get a fresh start. You don't get a reset button.
No, and we see this show up years and years later when somebody's trying to do something good and they did something wrong when they were 16.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, they were 16.
Yeah.
And yes, it could be something horrendous.
But it was 50 years ago.
And they've outgrown that. They've done the work and they're on the healing journey. And I mean, we could get into a whole nother podcast about all of that conversation.
Yep.
And maybe we should, because it is about healing. And how does it look like when we as a community, we as a consciousness allow people the space to heal? Because a lot of times we don't even allow people the space to heal because it's ugly.
Yep.
Healing the space, like the healing space might be tranquil. You might hear nice noises and you might feel like in the moment comfortable, but it doesn't look nice when you're bawling your face off or you're screaming or you're whatever it is that you're doing in the midst of it, and people are uncomfortable. We want everything to be smooth and calm and comfortable.
Yeah, it's like the box. It's like our box, our little step outside the box and see what life is like for a minute. It's very different, right? Very, very different. And I think if we allowed people the self-expression to heal even, so let's just, be fully self-expressed and they screwed up, they messed up, whatever it was, 20 years ago, 6 months ago, people can heal and people can change. And I'm not saying everyone deserves 60 chances either, okay? Can't make the same screw up multiple times. But everyone, like you said, what you're doing, what you're providing is to give everyone that space. And most people, I would argue, do not have that space. And so to create that opportunity for people wherever they are in the world, because, we live in a time where they can do that. They can come to you and be like, they're 12 hours ahead, but I need that space.
Yep.
And you can provide that for them. And I think that's a beautiful message and it's wonderful. And it takes something to take on people's stuff too, to be that person that can take on the stuff. I can imagine life coaching, you hear all kinds of things, kind of like how I imagine counselors feel and therapists feel.
Yep.
You hear stuff and then you got to figure out, I guess where the Reiki comes in is, get rid of the stuff, put up that barrier.
Yeah, it's a profound honor to be part of the process for someone who is willing and courageous enough to take themselves on. It really truly is, brave for those who are willing to say, okay, you know what? Something's not working. And I want to say that nothing's wrong and nothing's broken. And we use those words all the time. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I need to be fixed. I've said those words many, many times myself. But there's nothing wrong and there's nothing broken and nothing needs to be fixed. We just need to alchemize it and transform it. And when we do that, that's when the acceptance can come in and the forgiveness and the truth and freedom. Sounds simple.
Sounds very simple. And I think actually that's like the most beautiful place we could end off.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that was perfectly said, beautifully said.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Sarika, for taking this on, having this wonderful conversation. We've got to do it again. That it would be fun, I think.
Different topic,
Yeah,
figure it out. Well, now I get to say it. I'm Sarika Ganguli, and I am your host for Healers Talk Healing, and that brings us to the end of our episode with Nina Ganguli.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today on Healers Talk Healing. We hope you've been inspired and empowered on your holistic healing journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode and want to continue learning and growing with us, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, and review our podcast. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, healing is a lifelong journey, and you have the power to transform your life in profound ways. Stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop believing in your own capacity for healing.